4 true scary horror encounter of 2025 based on real experiences. You're about to step into the shadows of reality, where fear isn't just imagination. 4 terrifying true events from 2025 are waiting, each told by someone who lived it. From isolated cabins to creepy apartments, from forests that hide more than wildlife to quiet rural roads, these stories will make you question what's really out there. Stick around and subscribe. Story 1. The Cabin at Lake Ashwood. My name's Jordan, I'm 27, and last spring I rented a small cabin on Lake Ashwood in northern Michigan for a solo weekend getaway. I'd always loved solitude, the lake reflecting the trees and the whisper of the wind through the pines. It should have been peaceful, the kind of quiet that fills your lungs and calms your mind. But by nightfall, the serenity turned heavy, almost oppressive, and I began to notice things that didn't belong. The cabin was rustic, older than the maps suggested, with wooden floors that groaned under every step and a fireplace that hadn't seen a fire in years. Outside, the lake shimmered, framed by dense forest. Inside, the scent of mildew mixed with faint pine, the faint odor of decay you never notice until it's too late. I set up my laptop on the kitchen table, planning to write, but every creak in the floor sounded like someone walking behind me. On the first night, I thought it was just imagination. A snapped branch outside, a shutter tapping in the wind. But around midnight, I heard it, soft, deliberate tapping from the porch. At first, I froze, telling myself it was probably a branch or an animal. I went to the window. The porch was empty. I blinked. The tapping stopped. My heart raced, and I knew sleep wasn't coming. The second night, it escalated. I awoke to a shadow flitting across the small living room, just beyond the lamplight. My instinct screamed at me to run, but curiosity rooted me. I whispered my own name, Jordan? Nothing. I tiptoed closer and felt a sudden chill, the kind that seeps into your bones and makes your skin crawl. I checked the locks. Everything was secure. Yet, the shadow moved again, lingering near the back door, where I had left my jacket the first day. By the third night, the tapping became a slow, methodical whistling, drifting from outside the cabin into the bedroom. It was off-key, broken, almost like someone was testing the edges of your nerves. I grabbed a flashlight, chest tight, and stepped onto the porch. Nothing. No footprints in the damp sand by the lake, no sign of anyone approaching. But the whistling didn't stop. It faded, weaving through the trees, surrounding me. I felt watched, hunted, a sensation impossible to shake. Morning came, and the sun offered little comfort. I found faint prints in the mud by the back of the cabin. They weren't human. Not quite. Small, irregular, leading in a loop from the porch to the forest edge and back. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, that fatigue and solitude had clouded my mind. But every night, the same pattern repeated. Each evening the whistling started precisely at 11:17 p.m. The consistency was what terrified me the most. Someone, or something, was waiting. By night 4, I had barricaded the doors, flashlight in hand, heart hammering. At 11:17, the whistling began inside the cabin this time. Not outside. Right in the hallway. I froze, remembering stories my grandfather once told about hidden watchers in the woods. My instinct screamed. I grabbed the old hunting rifle tucked behind the couch. Shadows shifted, and I saw movement. A pale figure in black, watching from the corner of my eye. I fired a warning shot. The sound ricocheted through the trees, and the figure vanished. I didn't wait to find out more. I fled to my car, keys trembling in my hand. To this day, I don't know what was there. The cabin is still listed on rental sites. But I'll never go back. Every time I hear a wind whistle through trees, I remember the figure watching from the shadows, waiting for me to return. Story 2. The Apartment on Harper Street. I'm Leah, 24, living alone in a small apartment in Chicago. The building is old, the kind where the plaster cracks and the hallways smell faintly of mildew and old carpet. I moved here for work, a fresh start after college. I loved the city energy, the sounds, the lights, the sense that life moved fast. But fast-moving life sometimes hides things you never notice until it's too late. It began with noises. At first, it was soft, scraping at night, like furniture being moved in the apartment above mine. I knocked, thinking it was a neighbor, but nobody answered. Then it escalated, whispering through the vents, faint but coherent. "Leah," it called, just barely audible but clear enough to stop me cold. I thought it was stress, paranoia from being alone for the first time in years. One night, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of my front door handle rattling. I didn't have a visitor. The locks were intact. Heart racing, I called my friend Maya, who lived nearby, explaining the situation. She suggested it was probably a prank. I wanted to believe her, but deep down, I knew this wasn't random. The following week, the apartment felt alive in ways I couldn't explain. Doors would open slightly when closed, items moved subtly, just a few inches here and there, enough to make me doubt my sanity. I began documenting everything. Photos, videos, notes. One night, reviewing the footage, I noticed faint shadows near the doorway of my bedroom. I had been sleeping while someone, or something, stood there, watching. The breaking point came when I woke up to find all the apartment lights off, my phone dead, and a figure standing silently at the window. I froze, staring, heart thudding so hard I thought it would burst. The figure, a man in black, pale face, eyes impossible to see, slowly lifted one arm, pointing toward me, then disappeared. I called Maya. She arrived within minutes, and together we scoured the apartment. Nothing. No evidence, no footprints, nothing at all. After that night, I moved. The apartment on Harper Street still exists. Sometimes, I wonder if the figure stayed behind, watching the next tenant. The thought keeps me awake at night, remembering the sensation of being hunted while in my own home. Story 3: The Forest Hike. My name's Ethan, I'm 32. Last summer, I went on a solo hiking trip in the Appalachian Trails. I wanted to disconnect, find quiet, and push myself physically. But nothing could prepare me for what I experienced that weekend. On the first day, everything seemed normal. The crunch of leaves under my boots, the scent of damp soil and pine, birds calling overhead. I set up camp near a small clearing, confident in my ability to handle the wilderness alone. But as night fell, the forest transformed. Shadows lengthened, twisting unnaturally, and the wind carried sounds I didn't recognize. Whispers, almost human, brushing through the trees. Around 11 p.m., I heard footsteps approaching my tent. At first, I assumed it was an animal, maybe a deer. But the footsteps were deliberate, slow, and measured. Something was pacing outside, circling my campsite. I shined my flashlight through the tent flap. Nothing. But the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. My skin crawled, my stomach twisted. I tried to calm myself, repeating that I was alone, yet the footsteps continued, growing closer, then retreating as if toying with me. That night I barely slept. Every crack of a branch, every rustle of leaves, made me jolt upright. When morning came, I thought the ordeal was over. I packed up quickly, anxious to leave, but as I moved along the trail, I noticed something disturbing. Scratch marks on the trees, forming symbols I couldn't recognize, circling the path I had just walked. And the more I looked, the more I realized the scratches weren't random. They seemed intentional. On the second night, deeper in the woods, I set up camp again, this time near a stream. As darkness fell, the whispers returned. This time, they were louder, clearer. Thin, they hissed, carried by the wind. My heart stopped. My name. I wasn't imagining it. I tried to record the sound on my phone, but the moment I pressed record, the whispers vanished. Then I saw movement, a pale figure, hunched and thin, darting between the trees, always just at the edge of my vision. Every time I turned to look directly, it disappeared. Hours passed like this. I eventually fell asleep out of sheer exhaustion, only to wake to heavy breathing outside my tent. My flashlight revealed nothing, but the ground around the tent was disturbed. Footprints, not quite human, encircling my sleeping bag. I packed immediately and didn't stop until I reached my car the next morning. Even now, when I walk through the woods near home, I feel eyes on me, and I can't shake the whispers that still echo in my mind. Something followed me that weekend, and I don't know if it ever stopped. Story 4: The Rural House on Willow Lane. I'm Clara, 29, and I grew up in a quiet town in Iowa. Last winter, I rented my late aunt's house on Willow Lane while renovating my own place. It was isolated, surrounded by fields and a few neighboring farms, perfect for peace, or so I thought. The first night was uneventful, but I noticed the house felt alive in a way I couldn't explain. The wooden floors creaked like breathing, and the shadows from the dim hallway lights seemed to move independently. I chalked it up to the old house settling. 3 days in, I began hearing knocks at odd hours. Sometimes they came from the attic, other times from the basement. Always 3 quick taps, then silence. I tried ignoring it, convinced it was an old plumbing or structural issue. But the knocks grew more deliberate, rhythmic, almost like someone communicating. One evening, I was in the kitchen when I saw a shadow pass behind the window. I froze. No cars, no neighbors. Just the dark fields and the wind. When I checked outside, nothing. I laughed nervously, telling myself I was imagining things. But then I noticed muddy footprints leading from the back door toward the barn, though I hadn't been outside in hours. The nights worsened. I began leaving lights on, sleeping with the door locked, but it didn't help. Around midnight, I would hear whispers, low and guttural, coming from the corners of the rooms. They spoke my name, sometimes multiple times. Clara, Clara. I would sit up, heart hammering, but the rooms were empty. The final night was the worst. I woke to the sound of the front door creaking open. I was certain I had locked it. I grabbed a baseball bat and slowly walked to the entryway. There, etched into the wooden floor, were fresh scratches, long, deep, claw-like, forming a circle around the doormat. My breath caught, and I realized I was not alone. Suddenly, I felt a cold hand brush my shoulder. I spun around, nobody. Yet, the air felt heavy, suffocating, charged with something unseen. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, I packed and left, vowing never to return. The house still stands, abandoned in the fields, whispering secrets that no one alive should hear. Even now, when I drive past Willow Lane, I feel an unease I can't shake. Something in that house isn't just a memory, it's still there, watching, waiting. If these 4 true horror stories from 2025 sent chills down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more terrifying tales. I want to hear from you. Comment below which story scared you the most, or share your own real-life creepy encounter. Let's see who's braver, the lake cabin, the apartment, the forest, or the rural house. Don't hold back, your story might freak someone out too.